The hospital room was cold, the kind of cold that seeps into your bones and makes you forget what warmth feels like. My daughter-in-law Patricia stood at the foot of my bed holding a clipboard with papers I couldn't quite focus on, her voice sharp and clinical as she explained why I needed to sign a do not resuscitate order for everyone's peace of mind. My son Carlos sat in the corner scrolling through his phone, occasionally nodding at whatever Patricia said, never once looking at me directly. I was 73 years old, recovering from pneumonia in a hospital in San Antonio, and the woman my son had married was asking me to sign away my right to live while he pretended I didn't exist. But what Patricia didn't know, what neither of them could have imagined, was that the estate planning attorney she'd hired to witness my signature wasn't an attorney at all, and the recording device hidden in my hospital gown had been running for the past 20 minutes. The hospital room was cold, the kind of cold that seeps into your bones and makes you forget what warmth feels like. My daughter-in-law Patricia stood at the foot of my bed, holding a clipboard with papers I couldn't quite focus on. Her voice sharp and clinical as she explained why I needed to sign a do not resuscitate order for everyone's peace of mind. My son Carlos sat in the corner scrolling through his phone, occasionally nodding at whatever Patricia said, never once looking at me directly. I was 73 years old, recovering from pneumonia in a hospital in San Antonio, and the woman my son had married was asking me to sign away my right to live while he pretended I didn't exist. But what Patricia didn't know, what neither of them could have imagined, was that the estate planning attorney she'd hired to witness my signature wasn't an attorney at all, and the recording device hidden in my hospital gown had been running for the past 20 minutes. My name is Teresa Castillo, and this story begins 6 months earlier when I made the mistake of trusting my son with a secret that would almost cost me everything. I came to Texas from Guatemala 48 years ago, pregnant with Carlos and running from a husband who decided his fists were more effective than his words. I arrived in Houston with $32, a bruised face and a determination that my unborn child would never know poverty or violence. I worked in hotel laundry rooms, cleaned houses, babysat other people's children while pregnant with my own, saved every penny I could scrape together. Carlos was born in a county hospital, an American citizen with opportunities I'd never had. I worked double shifts at a nursing home while he was in school, studied English at night classes, eventually got my CNA certification, then my LVN license. By the time Carlos was in high school, I was working as a licensed vocational nurse making decent money, and we'd moved from a one-bedroom apartment to a small house in a working-class neighborhood. I put Carlos through community college, then helped him transfer to UT San Antonio where he got his business degree. Watched him graduate, get a good job at a tech company, buy a nice apartment in the city. He was everything I'd hoped for. Successful, educated, American in ways I'd never be. I was so proud I could barely speak without crying. Then he met Patricia Vega at some company retreat, and within 8 months they were engaged. She was 32, born and raised in San Antonio to a middle-class family. Spoke perfect English and Spanish with that educated accent that made my working-class Spanish sound harsh and unpolished. At their engagement party, I overheard her tell a friend, "His mother is sweet, but so provincial." Thank God Carlos didn't inherit her accent. Provincial. Like I was some backwards peasant instead of a woman who'd built a life from nothing. But I smiled and congratulated them because that's what mothers do. We swallow insults for our children's happiness, though I was beginning to understand that happiness had a price I hadn't agreed to pay. The wedding was expensive, $40,000 that Patricia's parents contributed nothing toward. Cash flow issues, they claimed, though they'd just returned from a cruise to Alaska. Carlos asked if I could help, and I gave him $12,000 from my savings, everything I'd put aside for emergencies. "I'll pay you back, Mama, once we're settled." That was 4 years ago. Still waiting on that first dollar, though by now the money was the least of what they'd taken from me. After the wedding, Carlos's visits dropped from weekly to monthly to barely at all. Phone calls became texts. Texts became silence. When I called, Patricia would answer, "Carlos is busy. I'll have him call you back." He never did. When I asked to visit, she'd say, "We're remodeling. It's chaotic. Maybe next month." Next month never came. But what did come was something I never expected. Last December, Carlos showed up at my house unannounced on a Tuesday evening. I was making tamales for Christmas, and when I opened the door, my son looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes, weight loss, hands shaking slightly. "Mama, can we talk?" We sat at my kitchen table where I'd helped him with homework for 12 years. And Carlos told me something that made my blood run cold. Patricia and I are in trouble. Financial trouble. Bad investments. Credit card debt. I might lose my job. We're looking at bankruptcy. Maybe losing the house. And Mama, I don't know what to do. How much do you owe? Over $200,000. Most of it from Patricia's spending and some investments she convinced me to make that went bad. She has a shopping addiction, Mama. Designer clothes, expensive dinners, trying to keep up with her friends who have family money. And I've been too weak to say no. I held my son's hand across the table and he started crying deep, broken sobs. I need help. I know I have no right to ask after how we've treated you. But you're my mother. You're the only person I can turn to. What kind of help? A loan, $50,000. Enough to pay down the critical debts. Buy us time to sort out the rest. I'll pay you back. I swear. I'll set up automatic payments. Put it in writing. Whatever you need. $50,000. It was most of what I had left in savings after giving them $12,000 for the wedding. But he was my son, my only child. And he was desperate. So I did what mothers do. I said yes, though I insisted on one condition. We put it in writing. A promissory note. You pay me back over 5 years at reasonable interest. This isn't a gift, Carlos. This is a loan that you will repay.
Of course.
Yes. Thank you, Mama. You're saving our lives. 2 days later, Carlos returned with papers his lawyer had drawn up. A promissory note for $50,000 at 4% interest. Monthly payments of $938 starting February 1st. He signed it. I signed it. We had it notarized. Then I transferred the money to his account, and he left promising to never forget this kindness. That was 6 months ago. I never received a single payment. But what I did receive, 3 months later, was something much worse. It started with a phone call from an unknown number. A woman's voice, professional and cold. Mrs. Castillo? This is Jennifer Morrison from Sterling Financial Services. I'm calling regarding an outstanding debt in your name. There must be a mistake. I don't have any debts with your company. According to our records, you have 3 credit cards with us totaling $42,000 in charges, all significantly past due. We need to discuss payment arrangements. My hands went cold. I never applied for credit cards with you. This must be fraud. The applications were submitted online using your social security number, date of birth, and current address. If you're claiming fraud, you'll need to file a police report. After I hung up, I pulled my credit report. What I saw made me physically sick. 3 credit cards I'd never applied for, all maxed out. 2 personal loans I'd never taken. A car lease in my name for a BMW I'd never seen. Over $90,000 in debt that I hadn't incurred. All opened within the past 3 months. Someone had stolen my identity, and the applications all traced back to one IP address. Carlos and Patricia's home. My son had taken my $50,000, then used my identity to steal another $90,000 through fraudulent accounts. And Patricia, I would later learn, had been the mastermind. She'd convinced Carlos that I'd never find out, and that they'd pay it all back before it became a problem. I should have called the police immediately. Should have reported the fraud, protected myself, let Carlos face consequences for what he'd done. But he was my son, my baby, and I convinced myself there had to be an explanation. So I did something possibly stupid, but definitely strategic. I hired the same private investigator who'd helped my friend Rosa when her nephew stole from her. His name was Miguel Santos. And over the next 6 weeks, he documented everything. The credit card charges, designer purses, expensive dinners, a vacation to Cancun, the personal loans transferred directly to accounts Patricia controlled, the BMW leased in my name, but registered to their address. And worse, recorded phone conversations between Carlos and Patricia planning their next move, getting me to sign over my house through a quitclaim deed while I was confused from pneumonia medications.
Confused from pneumonia medications.
They were planning to use my illness against me, to take the house Raul and I had bought 30 years ago, the house I'd finally paid off last year. But Miguel found something else, something that made their plan infinitely more sinister. Patricia had a history, 2 previous elderly relatives, her own grandmother and an uncle, who died shortly after signing over property to her. Natural causes, both times, but suspiciously convenient natural causes. especially when combined with DNR orders signed just days before their deaths. Teresa, Miguel told me in my living room, his face grim. I think Patricia kills people. I can't prove it. The deaths were ruled natural. No autopsies were ordered. But the pattern is clear. She isolates elderly relatives, gets control of their finances and medical decisions, then they conveniently die right after signing over assets. Your son might not even know what she's done before. What do I do? You survive. You protect yourself. And you document everything so when she makes her move, we have evidence. 2 weeks later, I developed pneumonia, bad enough to require hospitalization, but not life-threatening. I was admitted to a hospital in San Antonio, and within 24 hours, Patricia was at my bedside with papers to sign. Power of attorney for healthcare, she explained, her voice sweet and concerned. Just so Carlos and I can make medical decisions if you're unable to. Standard procedure. I can make my own decisions. Of course you can. This is just in case. She smiled. Don't you trust us? I didn't sign. She left annoyed, but hiding it behind concern. We'll come back tomorrow when you're thinking more clearly. That night, Miguel visited during off hours. He'd bribed a nurse to let him in through a side entrance. He showed me what he'd installed, a recording device, disguised as a button on my hospital gown, a camera in what looked like a tissue box on my bedside table, and a panic button disguised as a call pendant. Wear this gown tomorrow. Let them talk. Get them on record. And Teresa, if they try any medical, press the panic button. I'll be in the parking lot with police on speed dial. The next day, Patricia returned with Carlos and someone she introduced as our attorney, Mr. Davidson, to witness some estate planning documents. Mr. Davidson was 50-ish, well-dressed, carrying a leather briefcase that screamed expensive lawyer. What Patricia didn't know was that Mr. Davidson was actually Miguel's partner, a former FBI agent named Marcus Webb, who specialized in elder abuse investigations. Miguel had planned this perfectly. When Patricia contacted attorneys to witness documents, Marcus had intercepted the call and posed as the lawyer she'd requested. Patricia pulled a chair close to my bed, her smile gentle and her eyes calculating. Teresa, we need to talk about something difficult. You're very sick, and we want to make sure your wishes are clear. I'm recovering fine, but pneumonia at your age can be unpredictable. What if something happens? What if you can't breathe on your own? She pulled papers from her folder. This is a DNR order. Do not resuscitate. It means if your heart stops or you stop breathing, the medical team won't try to save you. You'll just go peacefully. I don't want that. I want them to save me. But Teresa, think about the suffering. The tubes, the machines, the pain. Wouldn't you rather rest, let nature take its course? Her voice was so reasonable, so kind. But her eyes were dead cold. Carlos finally spoke from the corner. Mama, Patricia's right. We don't want you to suffer. I'm not suffering. I'm recovering. Patricia's smile tightened. You're confused. The medications they're giving you, they affect your thinking. That's why we need to make these decisions for you. I'm not confused. The doctor said you were disoriented this morning. That was when I first woke up. I'm clear now. Patricia glanced at Carlos, then at Mr. Davidson, some silent communication passing between them. Then she leaned closer, and her voice dropped, still sweet, but with an edge underneath. Teresa, let me be direct. You owe us money. The $50,000 you loaned Carlos? We both know that was a gift. And frankly, it wasn't enough to cover what you owe us for taking care of you all these years. Do you know how expensive it is to deal with an elderly parent? The phone calls, the visits, the emotional burden? I never asked you to take care of me. You stopped visiting because you're exhausting, Teresa. Always needing something. Always calling Carlos. Always making him feel guilty. Do you have any idea how that's affected our marriage? She pulled out more papers. This is a quit-claim deed for your house. Sign it over to Carlos, and we'll forget about all the debt. The $50,000, plus the credit cards you somehow accumulated. We'll call it even. My heart was pounding, but I kept my voice steady. I didn't accumulate those credit cards. Someone used my identity to open them fraudulently. Patricia laughed, a sharp, cruel sound.
Who would do that?
Teresa, you're old. You probably applied for them and forgot. It happens with elderly people all the time. I didn't forget. Someone stole my identity. Well, if you're claiming fraud, you'll need to file police reports. Name suspects. Go through interrogations. She leaned even closer. Do you really want to put Carlos through that? Your own son? Because if you report fraud, they'll investigate everyone with access to your information, everyone in your family. The threat was crystal clear. Report the fraud, and she'd make sure Carlos was implicated, possibly arrested, possibly charged. My son would go to prison because of crimes his wife committed, but he'd helped execute. So here's what's going to happen, Patricia continued, her voice now stripped of any pretense of kindness. You're going to sign this DNR, and you're going to sign this quitclaim deed, and then you're going to have a tragic but peaceful passing from pneumonia complications, and Carlos will inherit your house debt-free. Or you can refuse, report fraud, watch your son go to prison, and spend your final years battling lawsuits and criminal investigations while we drain every penny you have left. Carlos stood up, his voice weak. Patricia, maybe we should… Sit down, Carlos. She didn't even look at him. He sat. That's when Mr. Davidson spoke for the first time, his voice measured and professional. Mrs. Castillo, before you sign anything, I need to inform you of your legal rights. Patricia turned to him, annoyed. She knows her rights, just witness the signatures. Actually, I need to read her the standard disclosure. Marcus pulled papers from his briefcase. Miss Castillo, do you understand that signing a DNR means medical personnel will not attempt to resuscitate you if your heart stops? Yes. And do you understand that signing a quitclaim deed means you're voluntarily transferring ownership of your property without compensation? Yes. And are you signing these documents of your own free will without coercion or threats? I looked directly at Patricia. No, I'm being threatened. She said, if I don't sign, she'll make sure my son goes to prison for the fraud she committed using my identity. Patricia's face went white. I never said that. Marcus held up his hand. Mrs. Vega, I need to inform you that I'm not actually an attorney. My name is Marcus Webb, and I'm a former FBI agent working with a licensed private investigator on an elder abuse investigation. This conversation has been recorded with Mrs. Castillo's consent as part of a criminal investigation into identity theft, financial exploitation, and attempted murder. The room went silent. Patricia's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Carlos stood frozen, his phone clattering to the floor. Marcus continued calmly. Everything you've said in the past 20 minutes has been recorded. The threats, the admission of fraud, the coercion to sign legal documents under duress. We also have documentation of credit cards opened fraudulently in Mrs. Castillo's name using your home IP address, along with electronic evidence of conversations between you and Mr. Castillo planning to exploit her illness. This is entrapment, Patricia finally managed, her voice shrill. You can't. It's not entrapment. Mrs. Castillo consented to recording in her own hospital room. And there's more. Marcus pulled out another folder. We've been investigating 2 deaths connected to you. Your grandmother, Rosa Vega, and your uncle, Martin Reyes, both died shortly after signing over property to you. Both had DNR orders signed days before their deaths. Both had suspiciously high levels of medications in their systems that weren't prescribed. Patricia backed toward the door. I had nothing to do with… Your grandmother's death has been reopened by Bexar County. Her body is being exhumed for a full autopsy. Your uncle's case is under review as well. And Patricia? Marcus's voice went cold. If those autopsies show what we think they'll show, you're looking at 2 counts of first-degree murder in addition to the elder abuse and fraud charges from this case. Carlos finally found his voice. Mama, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know about her grandmother or uncle. I thought we were just… He stopped, realizing there was no way to finish that sentence that didn't incriminate himself. You thought you were just committing fraud? I asked quietly. Just stealing my identity? Just planning to take my house? Just asking me to sign away my life? I was desperate, Patricia said. It would be okay, that you'd never find out. That he was crying now, ugly and broken. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this, Carlos. Sorry doesn't undo the credit cards, the loans, the betrayal. Sorry doesn't bring back Patricia's grandmother or uncle if she killed them. 2 security guards appeared at the door. Behind them, 2 San Antonio police officers. Marcus nodded to them. Patricia Vega, you're under arrest for attempted elder abuse, attempted fraud, and conspiracy to commit identity theft. Additional charges are pending. They handcuffed Patricia right there in my hospital room. She screamed the whole way out about lawyers, about false accusations, about how I'd regret this. But her voice faded as they took her away, and I was left with just Carlos and Marcus, and the weight of everything that had almost happened. What about him? I asked Marcus, gesturing to my son. Carlos helped her. He committed the fraud too. Marcus looked at Carlos with something like pity. It's up to you, Teresa. We have evidence of his involvement. If you want to press charges, we can. If you want to give him a chance to cooperate, testify against Patricia, and make restitution, that's an option too. I looked at my son. This man I'd raised, who'd helped a murderer try to kill me for my house. What do you want, Carlos? Prison or truth? Truth. Please, Mama. Truth. Over the next 6 months, the truth came out in ways that shocked even me. Patricia's grandmother and uncle had both been murdered. Slow poisoning with medications that mimicked natural decline, then lethal doses administered after DNR orders were signed. Patricia had done it twice before, and was planning to do it again with me. She was arrested for 2 counts of first-degree murder, multiple counts of fraud, and attempted murder. Her trial was scheduled for the following year. Carlos cooperated fully. He testified about everything. The credit card fraud, the identity theft, Patricia's plan to get my house, the conversations where she'd discussed how peaceful her grandmother's death had been. His testimony was devastating, and in exchange for it, prosecutors offered him a plea deal, probation, community service, and full restitution of all money stolen from me. But here's what broke me. Watching my son on the witness stand, describing how Patricia had gradually convinced him that I was a burden, that I owed them for putting up with me, that taking my assets was just speeding up the inevitable inheritance. He cried through most of his testimony, and when he looked at me in the gallery, his face was pure shame. The restitution took everything Carlos had. He had to sell his car, liquidate his retirement accounts, take a second job. Every month, a payment appeared in my account. Never quite the full amount, always a little short, but consistent. He was trying. Patricia's trial lasted 3 weeks. The evidence was overwhelming. The exhumation of her grandmother showed lethal levels of morphine. Her uncle showed signs of deliberate medical poisoning. Combined with the recordings from my hospital room and Carlos's testimony, the jury convicted her on all counts. 2 consecutive life sentences without parole. The day of the sentencing, I sat in the courtroom and watched Patricia being led away in chains. She looked at me once, and the hatred in her eyes was so pure, it almost felt physical. But she was gone, and I was alive, and that felt like victory, even though it tasted like ashes. Carlos called me that night. Mama, can we talk? We met at a diner near my house. Neutral territory, where we could speak without the weight of the past crushing us completely. I don't expect forgiveness, he started. I know what I did is unforgivable. I helped her steal from you. I was going to help her take your house. If you hadn't stopped us, you'd be dead right now, and I'd have been complicit in your murder. Why did you do it? Not just the money. Why did you let her convince you I was disposable? He was quiet for a long time. Because it was easier than facing what I'd become. Patricia made me feel successful, important, like I mattered. And she slowly convinced me that you were holding me back, that supporting you was preventing me from really succeeding. I believed her because believing her meant I didn't have to confront how badly I'd failed at managing my own life. You could have just asked me for help, honestly. I did. The $50,000 loan, that was me being honest. But when that wasn't enough and when Patricia wanted more, it became easier to justify stealing from you than to admit we had a problem. Each crime made the next one easier to rationalize. I sat there looking at my son, and I understood something profound. Patricia was a monster, but Carlos had chosen to be her accomplice. Not because he was evil, but because he was weak. And weakness, I was learning, could be just as destructive as malice. What do you want from me now? I asked. Nothing. You don't owe me anything. I just wanted to say, I'm in therapy. Real therapy. 3 times a week. I'm trying to understand how I became someone who could do what I did to you. And Mama, I want you to know, even if you never speak to me again, I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be someone worth being your son. That's all I've ever wanted. Not perfection, just honest effort. We didn't hug, didn't make promises of reconciliation, just paid our separate checks and went home to our separate lives, knowing that maybe someday, years from now, after enough therapy and restitution and proof of change, we might be able to build something new from the ruins of what was destroyed. 2 years later, I'm 75 years old. Patricia is in prison for life. Carlos has paid back 40,000 of the 90,000 he stole. Still has 50,000 to go, but he's never missed a payment. We have dinner once a month. Awkward dinners where we talk about safe things and avoid the past, slowly rebuilding trust through small, consistent actions. But something else happened that I never expected. The prosecutor on Patricia's case, a woman named Sandra Ruiz, called me 6 months after the trial. Teresa, I've been contacted by 3 other families. Elderly relatives who suspect they were targeted by someone who knew Patricia, who learned her methods, who might be doing the same thing she did. Would you be willing to speak with them, to share your story so they know what warning signs to look for? That's how I became an advocate. I started speaking at senior centers, at legal aid clinics, at anywhere people would listen. I told them about the identity theft, the coercion, the DNR order, the murder plot. I showed them the warning signs. Adult children who suddenly become overly involved in medical decisions, who push for power of attorney, who isolate their elderly parents from other family members, who benefit financially from deaths that seem suspiciously convenient. Within a year, I'd helped 12 families identify and stop potential abuse. 3 of those cases led to criminal investigations. 2 resulted in arrests. I'd gone from victim to survivor to advocate. And while that didn't erase what Carlos and Patricia had done to me, it gave my pain purpose. Carlos attended one of my talks, sat in the back, didn't announce himself, just listened to me describe what his wife had almost done and what he'd helped her attempt. Afterward, he waited until everyone else had left. I listened to the whole thing, he said quietly. Hearing you describe it, hearing the other families' stories. Mama, I'm so sorry. I know I've said that 1,000 times, but hearing you speak about it publicly, I understand now how close I came to being a murderer. You were a murderer, Carlos. Just not a successful one. I know, and I'm grateful. So grateful that you stopped us, that you were smart enough and strong enough to protect yourself when I wouldn't protect you. We stood there in that community center, and I made a decision. Not forgiveness. I wasn't there yet, might never be there. But acknowledgement. You're making payments, you're in therapy, you're trying to be better. That counts for something. Is it enough? I don't know. Ask me in 5 years. Ask me when the debt is fully paid. Ask me when I can look at you without seeing you standing in that hospital room while your wife tried to kill me. That's fair. Today I'm 77. The debt is almost paid. Carlos has 48,000 left, but he's been consistent. Never missed a payment. Even took a second job to pay extra when he could. We have dinner every 2 weeks now, and last month he asked if he could bring someone to meet me. Her name is Jennifer. She's a nurse, and she lost her own mother to elder abuse. When Carlos told her what he'd done to me, she almost left him, but he showed her the payment records, the therapy notes, the victim impact statement he'd written and read in court, the years of work he'd done to become someone different. I'm not asking you to forgive him, Jennifer told me over coffee. I'm not even sure I've forgiven him, but I've watched him for 2 years, and Teresa, he's not the same person who did those things. He's become someone who might deserve a second chance. What makes you think that? Because he doesn't make excuses. He doesn't blame Patricia for corrupting him. He owns every choice, every crime, every betrayal, and he's built his entire life around making sure he never hurts anyone like that again. I looked at my son across that coffee shop table, and I saw something I hadn't seen in years. Honest remorse. Not performative. Not manipulative. Just a man genuinely horrified by who he'd been and determined to be better. I'm not ready to fully trust you again, I told him. Maybe I never will be. But Carlos, you've done something I didn't think you could do. You've proven that people can change if they do the work. He cried then, not the broken sobs from the hospital, but quieter tears. That's all I wanted. Not forgiveness, not absolution, just acknowledgement that I'm trying. I see you trying. That matters. Last week, Patricia sent me a letter from prison. I almost didn't open it, but curiosity won. Teresa, it began, I've had 2 years to think about what I did, and I've come to some realizations. I'm not sorry for trying to kill you. You were a means to an end, a stepping stone to the life I deserved. I'm only sorry I failed, but I want you to know something. Carlos loved you, really loved you. Every time we discussed taking your money or your house, he hesitated. Every time I pushed him toward cruelty, he resisted. It took me 2 years to break him down enough to participate, and even then he was weak about it. So if you're going to hate someone, hate me. I'm the monster. He's just the fool who loved a monster. And Teresa? If I ever get out of here and stranger things have happened, I'll finish what I started. That's not a threat. That's a promise. I showed the letter to the prosecutor. Patricia got additional charges for threatening a witness, extending her sentence, and I got a restraining order that will last long after she's dead, just in case. But here's what that letter taught me. Patricia was right about one thing. Carlos did love me. He just loved her more, or feared her more, or needed her approval more. And that weakness almost cost me my life. Today my son is 40 and starting over. Jennifer moved in with him last month, and they're talking about marriage. He invited me to meet her parents, and I went. And we had a surprisingly normal dinner, where nobody discussed murder attempts or fraud or prison sentences. Just regular conversation about jobs and hobbies and plans for the future. Is this redemption? Is this healing? I don't know. What I do know is that I'm 77 years old, alive because I was smart enough to protect myself when my own son wouldn't. I own my house free and clear. I have $98,000 in restitution paid back with $2,000 left to go, and I spend my days helping other elderly people recognize the warning signs of the abuse I barely survived. My daughter-in-law told me to sign a DNR or they'd do it for me. But when the lawyer walked in with recording equipment and a plan, everything changed. Patricia's in prison for life. Carlos is rebuilding his life with honest work and real remorse. And I'm here, speaking truth to power, helping others survive what I survived. That's not the ending I wanted. I wanted a son who never betrayed me, a daughter-in-law who wasn't a serial killer, a family that stayed intact. But it's the ending I got, and I'm learning that sometimes survival is victory enough. My name is Teresa Castillo. My daughter-in-law tried to murder me for my house. My son helped her, and I stopped them with evidence, courage, and the kind of strategic thinking that comes from 73 years of surviving everything life throws at you. They thought I was weak because I was old. They thought I was helpless because I was alone. They thought I'd go quietly because that's what elderly women are supposed to do. They were wrong. And now I spend my life making sure other people's mothers, grandmothers, and elderly relatives don't have to face what I faced. Because the opposite of victim isn't survivor, it's advocate. And I chose advocacy over silence, justice over family loyalty, truth over the comfortable lie that my son loved me enough not to help kill me. He didn't love me enough, but I loved myself enough to fight back. And in the end, that's the only love that saved my life. The end.